Hello everybody. Thank you for joining us at another one of our APPI Learn by Doing webinars. Today we're going to do focus on feedback and just really emphasize and work to have everybody get deep in their gut that precognition indeed begins with the feedback session. APPI, by the way, is like the App Institute, and we're really focused on teaching and having as many people as possible learn how to do this well enough so they can become what we're calling Precog pros and actually become professionals at this and earn money. And we're helping people to do that. And we just like more and more to become involved in that program. Now the outline for today is really very simple. We are going to do the feedback session for something we did about a month ago or so, and here's a coordinate. I hope some of you in fact were involved in that, but I've got the sessions and stuff, so we'll be able to go over them and discuss them as feedback. The question was, will the SPY, it's just like a stock, like IBM, any other stock that you can buy, but it happens to track the Standard & Poor's 500, and will it be under 230 on March 31st? Okay. Now, the prediction was no, and the outcome was no, and we'll be doing a feedback session with the associated target. So notice this was a hit. Yes, we get all excited about it now, but as I'm going to explain to you, when we do the feedback session, that's time to do something else. Okay, and then we're going to do another prediction for a month. These classes have now become a vehicle for doing month-long predictions with ARV, and enough of them so we can get data on whether or not there's a fall off or an increase or things are the same in terms of our hit rate for month-long predictions. And we'll be doing one RV session, one judging session. And then we'll be able to discuss this. I love when after the judging, the viewers copy and send their transcripts with the judging to me, and then we'll be able to discuss all of that. So that's part of our standard approach here. And then, of course, we won't get feedback for this in about a month. So every time I do, well, first let me just demonstrate here that the answer was no, but the question was, would it be under 230? But indeed, this is the SPY. Here it is for the daily. Here's March 31 in here. 230 is down here, so it was clearly above, and this just demonstrates that. So it was very clear it was a no. Now, right now, I want to tell you about the 5-second rule, and then I'm going to actually have you use it. Every time I give one of these classes, I always do them a little differently. There's obviously more than one way to learn ARV. But here's the old 5-second rule. I think most of you used it. We used it with our kids, and now it's being used with the grandkids. And that's if something drops on the floor, if you pick it up within 5 seconds, it's okay to eat it, which is sort of strange, but you know, they do a lot of dropping, and you know, it really is okay. In fact, there are even some scientists that are affirming it. Okay, so that's the 5-second rule with respect to food. Now, how about with respect to feedback sessions? It turns out I came up with this idea independently, applying it to feedback sessions, and someone told me there was this person, Mel Robbins, who I looked up, and she's doing something very similar. But in the context of feedback sessions, the time to take action is the when you get these negative, self-limiting thoughts and feelings. And this is true in the feedback session, remote viewing session, judging session, probably in your entire life. When you start getting these negative feelings, try to turn them around into something positive. That's just got to be helpful. Yes, if there are actions you can take and should be taking, consider all that, but then try to get into a positive frame of mind. In terms of the feedback, it's very clear what to do. As soon as you've become aware, your attention now notices, oh my God, I've become negative on this. Maybe there was something in the transcript that was just totally off or something like that. Turn that into a positive. Get into what you wish you would have done and know that you're now learning how to do that better, for example. So this 5-second rule during the feedback session is return back to the feedback target with a more positive, fun, enthusiastic attitude. So that's the 5-second rule. And it turned out, and this is happening more and more to me, rather interestingly, I received just about the same time I was coming up with the 5-second rule, this from Abraham Hicks, who a lot of their stuff resonates with me. And here it says, you're picky about the car you drive, you're picky about what you wear, you're picky about what you put in your mouth. We want you to be pickier about what you think. So turn those negative thoughts and feelings into more positive ones. Precognition indeed begins with the feedback session. That's when you know the truth. Okay? The 3 parts, just quick summary here. The 3 parts are the remote viewing session. Then we do, in linear time, judging so that we can make an actual prediction because, as you know, in associative remote viewing, and we're doing binary, we have 2 choices. So this is where we make the choice. And then this is where, in fact, after the outcome of the event, you get the truth. You see the correct feedback photo site. So that's why we say it begins here. And indeed it does. This is, in fact, when you know the truth point. This is when you entangle with the remote viewing session. The cue, which starts all this off, even tries to make that as clear as possible. Describe and sketch your, and then there's a coordinate, feedback target. Okay, so right now, really get the target is the feedback photo site. Nothing else, period. There's lots of stuff you see. Yes, you see something at judging time, but so what? You see many, many images. All of those are to be ignored. The entanglement is what you see at the feedback time. Okay, so let's do the feedback session. And it starts, those of you hopefully have your transcript with you, but I'll be showing many of them. And the coordinate was 126,603. How do we get this? Well, we're using the WE protocol for Winning Entanglements protocol, and everything is done over the internet through email, and then stuff is saved on our computers. And here is the feedback, which was sent out by the group manager. And you can see I said the winning side here was no. Webinar workshop group, that's all of us, so I actually represent all of us. That's why it's sent to me. And then I get to write things here in the email. And more I've been focusing on this, and I really want to read it to you because it really summarizes what the feedback session is all about. This was what we call a group prediction. The group prediction was no, and the winning side was no, so we had a group hit. But that doesn't mean all the personal predictions were hits, and in fact there weren't. There were many hits, that's why the group went in that direction and got it, but indeed there were some passes and a miss. Okay, but everyone does this. Your personal feedback target session is the key to improving ARV. Do yours now. Okay, so now when you're reading this is a good time to start with positive, loving intention, attention, and expectation for an ever-improving precog journey. All that is relevant is your transcript and the associated feedback target during your feedback session. That's all that's relevant during your feedback session. Okay, and then you can click here, as I'm going to do now. So this comes in the email, so you can see how simple this is. The whole protocol is intended to be simple. Usually everybody has their own unique coordinate, but during these workshops we use one coordinate and everybody does the same, which is an interesting approach. We're doing that actually in some other groups. So you put in your username here, the same one you used when you did your remote viewing session, and then we click here, and there it is. So there's the feedback target for 162603. And after we do our feedback session, we'll be putting in some comments. So I'll come back here and put in some comments because I'm finishing this off for all of us, and then we submit it. So now let's go back to the presentation. There should be this one open. Okay. So now I would like all of you, as I think I indicated already, I do things and teach these differently every time, and I'd like you to do something right now to learn more about this feedback session and ARV in general. Pencil and paper in hand. You're not doing, you're now sort of doing a feedback session. Those of you, in fact, that had this coordinate, you really do your feedback session. And usually that starts by going onto your transcript and the gestalts come first. Those of you who didn't do this, on your piece of paper, what are the first impression you got when you looked at this? Huh? What is it? Put it in the chat box. Tell me. Interact with me here. What were some of the things which came up? Put it on a sheet of paper. Repeat them here. What you're now doing is adding energy to the feedback session. Okay, John says motion, energy, subject, cold, beautiful, cold. Flying, wonderful, wonderful. Right, action, others, and write it down on a piece of paper. Snow, crazy, big picture stuff, good, good. Okay, now what I want to do is, after the gestalts, they're words which, when you do your remote viewing session, and when I focus on the remote viewing, I always give these descriptors. These are the kinds of words you can use to get to the next level below the gestalt, at the level of what are the textures going on? What are the colors going on? Notice they're simple words. You don't want to say, like if you, Eiffel Tower. No, what you want to do is maybe say triangle, triangular, tall, open, you know, man-made, metal. Those are the kind of words you use in these kinds of categories. Okay, so put on a sheet of paper now with that image. What would be the next level? What would you say maybe for texture here? What would you say for dimensions? What would you say for action? Put them down on your sheet of paper. You're doing a feedback session now for this. Okay? Those of you who had it, the stuff you got, man, you circle and you make a big deal of. But then I always like you to add more. And right now, why don't all of you do an RV-like session, which means try to get stuff not from the short-term memory of what you saw, but deeper. How would you describe this in a RV session? And literally, I'm giving you 1 minute. I want you just to take the stuff that comes up right away. Go ahead, do it. 1 minute now. Okay, your minute's up. If you did this on a new sheet of paper, write end. You just ended a training feedback session, and that ended it. And that minute, I bet you got lots and lots of stuff. It's amazing how much stuff comes up, and you can put down on your piece of paper that in fact would describe this. Now let's go. Okay, so I hope that felt good, and you know, it's the same communication channel. It's the same communication channel you use when you do even short-term memory, long-term memory, right? It comes up through your nervous system somehow from who knows how. But I don't understand how it works. You know it works though. And you just got a sense of it in an environment that'll be like feedback when you have the picture. What's truly amazing is that what I'm showing you now are what one person, and I'm going to show you others, did blind, of course, at remote viewing time. They were able to generate just by listening, just like you were doing, but now they're listening to the subconscious, asking the question about coordinate 162, 603, intending and expecting to get information. And this is the information that came up from Ramel. I don't know if you're here, Ramel. Yes, you are. Terrific. So Ramel, now what you're seeing here is on top of his transcript is the judging. And the way we recommend judging is that you go through each element and you mark on it an A or a B. During feedback, so that's what you're seeing here. So I'm just trying to get you to understand what you're seeing. The other stuff underneath that is the original transcript. What you do at feedback time is just go over all of your elements and really play up the positive ones. Okay, here, this is pretty easy to do. First, hey, I look at this. This is what's called an ideogram, interesting ideogram. Right after he did his ideogram, he got rushing up and around, jumping and leaping across and again. Wow, that feels really good. Okay, I feel really good about that. I would circle that one. I was running and leaping up, really good. He marked that one with a B. He didn't mark this one with a B, but certainly feel good about both of those. Also showing the action. Okay, this is, I'm giving you what I think his mindset should be. You know, this is a training class. I'm going to do that kind of with a lot of them. Pathways, oh my gosh, look at this. That also looks like the skis under here. Clearly he's going down to a pathways. That was terrific. Here, attention onto the top, marked with black lines. Okay, I see black. I guess these would be the black lines. He certainly marked them with the B, which was the correct. Now here, I'm looking at this now, and I see that in here. And look at this. Look at this. Do you see that shape there? I think his sub may very well have been wanting to give him this shape. And one of the things we know about the sub, it often gets orientations wrong. So I would say, oh, hey, maybe sub, maybe you were trying to give me something like that. And then, oh, look down here, repeating patterns of small circles. Well, maybe not. But hey, I'm looking at this pattern now, sub. That's kind of cool.
I
I
think that would
maybe
be the
even draw it
snow.
again. Go ahead, Ramel.
I think that would refer to the snow. There's all repeating patterns. When you look at the texture of the snow, it's so almost
Oh, okay,
microscopically
very good. And that's why you marked it as a B. Okay, good. Um, um, Containing. Well, this looks an awful
yeah,
lot like that. It's a
definitely.
beautiful one, right? Oh, I feel really good about that. And again, flow, movement, in motion. This was just terrific. And that's how you should be feeling. And if you had to add something here, Ramel, what would you add?
I would add mountainous, cold, freezing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can also add some sound, a squeaky sound, rushing sound. The texture would possibly be smooth texture, sleek. Uh, the smell would be natural. Um, more dimensions in terms of the mountainous, the distance as well, the distant, singular. I would also add a loop, like a person that would be involved
To
in
your
there.
unigram, right? You didn't get
Mm-hmm.
person. Uh-huh. Okay.
And blue, the color blue.
Right.
I got the white.
Which is interesting
I
because
got the white.
as people are about to see, and that's what's so cool about this, is other people are going to get different aspects of this, and that's the way each person gets whatever they can pick up from the vibrations of the feedback. But by doing just what Ramel did, he's telling his subconscious, hey, next time I get something like that, why don't you just give me a little more? Thank you. Thank you for giving me this. I mean, this was terrific, and I wouldn't mind getting better at this. And so he's just basically asked the sub for that. And like missing blue, I would actually take a moment and really get into what the feeling of blue is as I want to communicate it with my sub. This is not an intellectual process. This is a communication process with the intuitive side of you, with the side of you that's built this communication channel. I mean, you already have it, right? But you want to expand it. You want to make it bigger. You want to get more information from Ingo Swann's matrix, from the universe of collective consciousness, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. You want to improve that, make that part of your intention and expectation. Okay, here's another one. Obviously blind. This one, and this was one of the reasons I emphasized what Ramel did, because he saw this as something other than a cloud. And notice I'm making no reference except right now to the other picture. Bad Marty, 5-second rule. Only focus on this picture. Other thoughts of anything else come in, back to this picture. This photo sight, all the sounds and smells, etc. So notice here, cloud smoke-like. Saw that in this. Beautiful, beautiful. Colors, got the blue, got the gray, got the white. Um, Texture, smooth, bubbly. I would say, well, I understand why you didn't do smooth. I would now get into feeling the snow. Okay, yeah, it wasn't smooth. It has kind of an, I'm feeling it now. Snow has a funny feeling. Also, it's cold. Boy, as soon as I try to get into the texture of snow, I get cold. Um, do that now. Tell your, this is the way snow feels as I want to communicate it through feedback sessions and with remote viewing. This is how I want to entangle the feeling of snow. So see what I'm doing? I'm learning here. I'm making this even stronger. Smells, I can't read it. I don't know whose session this was. If you're here, okay, but the person would know, and they would respond to that. Salty, I'm not sure. Maybe the guy has some salt sweat on him, but if you feel like that's a negative, 5-second rule, what do you taste here? What does snow taste like? Clearly snow is one of the big things here. What does snow taste like? Water, cold. So that's the kind of things I would get and communicate. Large, yes, very large, very large. Um, um, Big, and you might get new things that you would share and write down. A lot of people do this on another sheet of paper. Here's the cloud, blue sky. Oh, that's beautiful, 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 beautiful. Irrelevant that the other one was there too. Oh, bad, Marty, bad, Marty. Really get into blue sky. Not bad, Marty. I'm just using the 5-second rule, right? I'm learning. I want to stay focused on this feedback picture. Oh, blue sky with something moving in it, motion. Oh, and here's motion down here. I got that. Good. I feel really good about that. Sounds, movement, sounds, boom. Wow. Wow, sub, thank you. You just keep doing this. Okay, blue with this cloud going through. Nice. Yeah, I understand. Energy, whoosh. Woo, wonderful. Movement, temperature. Well, temperature. Hey, sub, I'm feeling it. It's cold there. I'm actually feeling my body getting a little bit cold now. Thank you. That's how I can communicate cold. Thank you. Okay, what would the person maybe want to add here? Um, I don't think I saw a person in here again. What does a person feel like? Maybe they have a symbol for a person. A typical symbol is like a loop. Okay, what does a person feel like? Got action, got movement. Now I've got the person sitting on that. What does that feel like? Okay, so I'm going to write a little something on there. I'm going to draw. I draw stick figures. That's what I do. People, you do this in the way that feels comfortable with you. I'm drawing a stick picture and something underneath it. And that's it. I've just added that. I've just told my sub that. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Terry, are you here? Okay, no, but motion. Okay, here's what is called for your newbies an ideogram. Some people do it as a pictogram. You after putting some of the stuff on top, which we'll talk about, baseline stuff, you usually will write the coordinate again and immediately get a physical reaction like a doodle, but it's called an ideogram or a pictogram. It usually contains a lot of information. In fact, these loops here, my interpretation would be people, but I think Terry got motion. Great, feeling really good. Obviously, for that to come up right away, that's terrific. Light, I like light. Well, this is a very light, well, though maybe they meant light like versus heavy. But who knows? The sub may have been trying to talk about the light whiteness of this. What word think any of you make that? Lot spy, hot spy. Okay, but you would know it. Marked it well. Give yourself support. Segregated. Let's see. Do I see segregated stuff? I see segregated here, segregated from here, segregated from there. That's not so bad. I feel okay about that. Translucent? Yeah, sure. I can see right through there. Water, beautiful, deep. Okay, yeah, this is deep, going down deep. Water, wonderful. Arching, yes. Pulsating, wonderful. Um, Viable. Oh, viable sport here. Yeah, I could see viable works here. Um, Now, and maybe during judging, it was appropriate not to do it, but now I can see where viable would fit. You're painting a picture here, and that's part of what you should do. Is there a picture here that you're getting, and did your words support that picture? And boy, here they seem to. Yeah, nice path. Goes up, enclosed, coming together. Sure, coming together when you land, coming together at the top. The fact at the top, oh, that was pretty darn good. Man-made, yep. Strong, yeah. I'm feeling strong doing this. The guy who's doing this is feeling really good about it. He's feeling strong. Space, motion, energy. Wonderful session. And you turn your feedback transcript into the most wonderful session that you can. These, I'll grant, are relatively easy, but nevertheless, that's what you do. Okay, so here's another one. Red, an example of what you do. Red, green, first two colors. Well, maybe I see a little red here, but certainly no green. But you know what? I'm going to use that now. Take my disappointment, first 5 seconds, and go into blue. Yes, and white. Look how they feel. Get a sense of them. Get the sense through your whole nervous system. So next time it'll communicate, the word blue will come up. The word white will come up. Maybe it was trying with clear. Maybe you were trying to do that with clear, sub. Blue or white would be better. Thank you. Rocky. Yeah, sure. Salty. Oh, no. Okay, but you know what? How about the snow? What's the taste of the snow? I'm almost licking my tongue on it. What is it? Oh, it's cold. And it's like watery. Watery's going into my mouth. Okay, so gray. Metallic. Oh, yeah. Oh, so that's what metallic feels like. Oh, okay, good. Clanging. Yeah, lots of noise when he goes off here. I wonder what he's hearing. He's hearing noise. Scraping. Ugh, no yellow again. Go back to that blue and the white. Blue and white. Yeah, black, but almost everything's got black. I'd really like to get communication with blue and with white. Thick. Okay, so I think you're getting the idea. Oh, and look at the sketch here. I probably wasn't focusing on sketches, but you should. Sketches. Oh, look at this sketch. Hey, it's not a boat, but you know what? I definitely can see the analogy with the motion and everything. That's really good. It even looks a little bit like it. Not bad. Okay. Don't know what this is. Don't know what that is. Maybe these blocks. Okay, you know what? And I would now actually do it. Why don't I sketch what I would have liked to do for next time? Maybe you can give me a shape like this. Okay, maybe that's what you can do next time. Oh, maybe that's what you were trying to do here. Okay, maybe that's what you were trying to do here. I don't know, but you know, pick up these shapes. My eye's very good at shapes and dimensions. Oh, and look at this one. Maybe that was this. Huh, interesting, interesting. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more because I think this is so important. You need to take the time. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. Each one of these don't take a lot of time, but they're critical. Here, blue and white. Oh, sub, thank you, thank you. I don't know why. Maybe there was yellow in his pocket. That's okay. I love the blue and white coming first. Thank you. And white again. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, that feels so good. Blue and white. Textures, ridges, rubbery. Oh, certainly textures. And there might very well be rubber in there. Certainly wasn't a big one, but mechanical, man-made. Oh boy, those were the words I would certainly want to add here. Write it down on this or another sheet of paper. Man-made. Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, interesting shapes. Maybe that was trying to capture this. Okay, well, just very quickly sketch that shape a little bit better. Oh, maybe it was even trying to do it here. But what I wish you had done was a little more like this with maybe even a person. A person. Or this dimension would be good. Maybe I would put that down. The right angle, oh, that certainly speaks to structure. That's good, that's good. I don't quite see right angle here, but again, these kind of shapes would have been better for something next time, but thank you for giving me the structure. Okay, tastes, didn't get any. Snow certainly has a pretty good taste that I might have gotten into. Okay. And then here's Julie's. Let's look at Julie. So she did a nice ideogram. It looks like a loop. I don't think, nope, she didn't put person on there. Maybe she should learn. If that happens over and over again and she sees a person there, then she's going to know to put person down right away, which would have been good. Oval, oval. Oh, look at that. Oval. Well, not round. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's good enough. I'd say that helmet was not round and oval. Hey, I'll give you credit for that. Thank you. Thank you, sub. Here's more shapes. Look at those lines. Those could be the ski things here. Really good. Up, like up in the air? Up in the air? Oh, wonderful. Not round. We did that. Cloth or cloth-like. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. Cloth. Even this whole structure, it's maybe metal, but certainly his clothes are cloth. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, look at this. Mountains. 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 Or maybe this shape here. Terrific, Julie. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, sub. Thank you, sub. Movement. Blue. Wow. Wow. Okay, that is what blue feels like and movement feels like. Structure on a platform. That's terrific. Stuck. Stuck. Well, hey, I don't like that. I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to get motion. I'm going to feel this motion even stronger now. Yeah, I got movement. I want to feel it even stronger. Stronger, stronger. Okay. Now, I want to show you why I saved Julie's for last. One of the things we're going to do when we do our new one is each of you are going to do a session. You're going to judge it. In this case, it was an easy group prediction, okay? So the prediction was associated with photosite B, which in this case happened to be no. That's random. We got a hit. But notice Julie went in the other direction. That almost always happens with a group of 4 or 5 people. It just happens. I don't know why, and that's because none of us are 100%, so it's someone's turn to go the wrong way. But I would have to say in this case, and this is one of the things you learn after you finish your feedback session, somewhere you write end, EOS, end of session. It's a session just maybe more important than the remote viewing session and the judging session, so you end it formally. Then you can get back into your intellectual mode and do some intellectual stuff on this. You'll also have the ability to see your stats. And if I were Julie, I would go back here and I would say, boy, did I ever blow the judging of this, because she gave it a 2 on the correct side. I mean, I look at this and look at all the good stuff we found. So I think what happened, and this happens too much, and it's a very important lesson about judging, is, you know, you do the first one and you think you got a good match, and you are swayed to not think the other one is not a good match. Don't do that. You judge each one independently, and you may very well even go back and you see which story is better, which seems to fit better, until you finally come up with your confidence rankings. Okay, so you know, if you want to, you can now add one more element. I think that's not necessary. One of the big things that I do want to say again is during the feedback session and afterwards, and when you're thinking about this other times in your life, because one of the things you really need to do if you're taking this seriously for the long term is you integrating it into your life. And just simply don't do excuses, you know, and what might have happened. Yeah, I was really excited about a TV show yesterday. Just learn, and that's why, and I see people do this, and they do a good session on a TV show that they're going to see tomorrow. You know, they get the feedback session and they say, oh yeah, now I understood what happened. All of that's irrelevant. During your feedback session, just learn. Be happy that you're involved in this great work, this mysterious cutting edge work, and then move on. Okay, one summary, and then we're going to go do it. And I call this a summary. I'm not even sure that's the right word. I'm thinking of changing that to all you need to know about ARV. And now that we've spent so much time appreciating the feedback session, you can really get all of ARV, because the precognition begins with this feedback session. There's one target for one coordinate. The feedback target is what you actually see, okay, and your remote viewing task is very simple: to describe and sketch it. Period. There's nothing complicated about it once you accept that precognition is real. And once you accept, it begins with the feedback session. It really is as simple as that. Okay. So let's take off our feedback hat, so to speak, and let's put on our remote viewing hat, and let's get ready to do a new prediction for a month or more. And here's the table which I keep up for our monthly predictions. It started with the Hillary Clinton one. We just did this one. And the one we're going to do today is will SPY, okay, the Standard & Poor's 500 index tracker, which is SPY, will that daily price close above 240 on June 5, 2016. It turns out it's been close to that several times and bounced off it. You know, like starting with what was called the Trump rally. but now it looks like it's either petering off or it's going to go through it. Who knows? A month is a long enough time that it may do this. It's a yes or no question. So that's going to be the question we're taking on. So I've just repeated it here. And let's see, I just remind you that binary ARV has these two sides, and that's what we call them, so you'll know the language when we talk about the different sides, because sometimes we make it like for pure financials, we might use the terminology up or down, where up might be side one, down might be side two, but all that's random. It turns out down might be side one and up might be side two. The computer program does this so generally, it always refers to them as side one and side two, and sometimes I call them that way too, just because they're two choices. But we do this with sports. And then we tend to like to do over and under, where the bookies set up the total number of points that they think it's going to happen in a game, such that they're willing to take an over that number of points or under. Or they'll choose a favorite or underdog with the team, and sometimes we'll actually do team A or team B for the two sides. But you can always turn these into a yes-no question. Now, I want you to just realize we're about to go into a mode where this intellectual stuff just doesn't matter. Understanding it doesn't matter, and we try to minimize the intellectual. You know, as a person, we're always trying to balance, and we should. I think in the new paradigm, consciousness paradigm shift, there's going to be a real harmony between the intellect and the intuitive. But as you get into your remote viewing session, you try to reduce the chatter of the intellect, all of its kind of thinking, and directly get in touch with the intuitive stuff that comes from the subconscious mind's connection with the matrix and that sort of thing. So here's the cue. Describe and sketch your, and we will right now or shortly get this 6-digit coordinate, which is really the tag for the feedback target. So it's the thing which connects up to your feedback target. During all of this, and even now, get into a positive, happy mood. Believe it or not, it helps. Every one of the sessions, be in a positive mood. It makes sense that it helps. It's natural that it helps. So feel happy about this, and that's an order. Okay, start feeling good. Start thinking of good things before that was going on. The intention is very clear. We've really talked about it enough. Describe and sketch your feedback target. At the feedback time, we really have the same intention, but we also have it for the long term as opposed to this specific coordinate only. The other thing I want to add here before we get the coordinate is expectation. This gets to really confident. Expectation. How confident are you that the sun is going to rise tomorrow? That the earth will rotate and there will be a rising of the sun? Do you expect that? Sure you do. That gets so deep in your belief system that it's a knowing. That's how deep it is. You want to do that with this as well. You want to get to a place where you are expecting to get a good match. If you don't, that's fine. You deal with it, you learn something. Hey, 1 billion years from now, our sun won't rise. Here it tends to happen more often, and you deal with it and you learn something. But getting into the space where you expect this, where you have a confidence level about your ability, and not only on this next one, but on the future ones. You're going to continue to get better and better as you do this and you practice more and more. Practice, 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 like a doctor, a lawyer, or a shaman. So that's your expectation. And then Joe McMonagle and Ed May, who did this for many years, also identified, in addition to intention and expectation, attention. Paying attention to your own consciousness, what's in your conscious moment in the here and now. That's the only time you really are aware of consciousness, is in the present moment, even though you can pick up information from the past and the future. And that's all very cool. So it's all the three biggies, if you had to name the three biggies, and there are other biggies, but these three are probably the best, and they labeled them: intention, attention, and expectation. Okay. Here, this is the way your sheet of paper should get set up. We've talked about the words here. We've talked about how gestalts tend to come up first, sketches. You've seen now, this being a feedback session, the way everybody comes up with their own unique way of doing it. This is a suggestion. If you ever want a copy of this sheet, I can give it to you. But we always start by putting the coordinate on the top, your name, date, and time. And some people write the coordinates multiple times up here, and a line, which this says this is sort of before the session. And then we'll do a cool down, you'll get quiet, and then when you're ready to start, you do the coordinate again, say it out loud, write it. The same thing that I really recommend you do at the feedback session. You're going to trace over the coordinate, do it again, say it out loud, just to act as a connection, an entanglement with your feedback session. We quickly looked at these words. This is the level of words that you should expect to come up. And how do I start? Okay, with email. Your group manager, in this case me, sends out an email, but they'll go to each of your email addresses. And okay, so here's a typical one, which is the one I sent out. I guess I did it yesterday. So this is the new coordinate. In our groups, we usually give about 5 days notice. And you'll get an email just like this, except it'll be for whatever group you're in. And it will give a little information. Will the SPY daily price close above here? It gives the start time, which is the start time of the event. And then it says the transcripts are due today. And then again, there's a link. So all you do is click this link. Okay, so you click the link and you put in your email address, and I'm acting as the person for that. Here is the group, and we're going to do one coordinate, and until you feel really, really comfortable with all of this, when you get, from beginning and you feel intermediate or advanced, then you might want to go to 2 coordinates, gives you 2 chances to get the right yes or no, get good matches. But we're going to do 1 coordinate, and I do recommend that for beginners. And then we click here and we'll get our coordinate. So there you go. So on the top of your, what will become your transcript, write and say it out loud now, and write it, 878179. It vibrates in your body. You're going to say it out loud at feedback time. And when you're writing it, you're not writing it to memorize. You're writing it because it's kinesthetic. And that's how your body will communicate with your subconscious through the kinesthetic knowledge through your nervous system of your body. So you're using sound, you're using touch. So you're making 878, 179 real, and you're intending and expecting that to be connected to your feedback target that you will see associated with this number, just like we've done with other numbers. Okay, now, okay, so before we actually start, I do want to do a little transition here, and then I have 10 minutes of hemisync for you. So you've got the coordinate now, and I've been using this consistently because the more I think about it, the more I use it, the more powerful I believe it is. Everybody does cool down in their own way. I believe transition, which is what I'm giving you now, from the intellect to the intuitive is important. Recognizing that the intellect is a major part of you, but you want to quiet that down so that you can listen to, some people are referring to it as nothing. It's non-physical. So what they're really meaning by this is no physical thing. And they're saying it's really something. That's a cool mindset. To get that there could be something that quantum mechanics talks about, a quantum foam, a quantum vacuum, 0-point energy. This is on the physical side of the world, not debated. This is not debated. Okay? The fact that at the very, very smallest levels, there is a reality which is like a quantum foam. No matter where you go in space, you can always get small, right? I can go to any part of our Milky Way galaxy. I can go into what people used to think was nothing, okay, between galaxies. And if I get very, very, very small, and we're talking 10 to the minus 35 small, where orders of magnitude, 10 to the minus 1 would be a tenth, 10 to the minus 2 would be a hundredth, 10 to the minus 35 small. Okay, so here they've blown this up as an illustration of what the quantum foam might be, 10 to the 35, okay? So that's 35 orders of magnitude, and they're saying even at that level, and they don't believe right now you can get any smaller than that, that even space is quantized. I mean, this intellectual stuff is so cool. And yet, what are they saying? They're saying at the smallest you can get, there's still creation and destruction of matter and antimatter, electrons, anti-electrons, protons, anti-electrons. They come from nothing, no thing, and disappear back into nothingness. On time scales, okay, the spatial scale we're talking about is ridiculously small. The time scale is at the level of the speed of light going across that space. So these are time and space scales that we cannot relate to, and yet that's where the action is between the non-physical, how about spiritual, the non-physical, and the physical. So nothing from the physical world perspective, but indeed there's more. They call it quantum foam. I thought it was a pretty good example because it's like root beer foam bubbles. You know, they seem random, like, you know, there's no logic to it. But perhaps on the quantum level, there is a non-random communication between the physical and non-physical. And I say perhaps, of course, because I can't prove it, but I think that's exactly what's going on. It's at this level, and why don't you just get a sense of that? Get a sense that every point in your body, okay, essentially an infinite number of them, is connected to this non-physical place where space and time are built. So the past is there, the present everywhere is there, and the future is there, including the future of your feedback session. So this word grok means get deeply as you can get into yourself, that your subconscious is part of this communication channel between the physical and non-physical realities. Your DNA, which vibrates, is huge compared to this fundamental level. Your nervous system, okay, is activated from this level to give you what's coming up when you set your intention for your feedback session. Okay, so you have your sheet of paper. You've got the coordinate. You might say it one more time out loud, 878-179. The cool down session is very important. Joe McMonagle thinks it's 75% of the discipline to get this connection between your RV session and your feedback target. And that comes from this matrix across this foam. And you are that way. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. I've put together a new, and I'm going to put this in the text box. I've put together a new cool down, which is just hemisync. Okay, so you should have this. After about a couple of minutes, there'll be some words saying to go even deeper. And 1 minute towards the end, there's words telling you you've got a minute left. Otherwise, it's pure hemisync. So why don't we start now? Use about half your time for cool down and half for doing your session.
Let go of your physical senses, your body, and turn inward.
You have about 1 minute left. You might go down and get one more precept or element. Okay, come on back to our physical world. I've got to turn mine off. The video seems to go into something else. Okay. So hopefully you're all back with me, though if you want your session to go longer, that's fine, feel free. 10 minutes seems to be about an average. Some people actually do sessions in less, some people take considerably more. I mean, some people do it on 1 or 2 pages, others might do 4 or 5 pages. The viewer is in charge. Okay, so now you have a remote viewing your transcript in front of you, and the next stage, which is primarily intellectual, though there's clearly an intuitive aspect to it in terms of bringing intuition in terms of interpretation, is the judging session. This is where we come up with the yes or no. This is where the wagering or use of resources, I mean, ARV can be used for things other than wagering. As you know, we do it for wagering because we're trying to educate society ultimately. Sorry about that. And the energy, whether it's money or looking for a missing person, you know, you might ask, is the missing person in New York, yes or no? But in any case, the wagering decisions are made here. And I used to consider wagering to be like the 4th leg of ARV. I now really am going to talk about it because I think it's actually more appropriate to talk about it in the context of the results of analysis judging, because depending on how this turns out and how you feel about it all up to there, you may or may not want to wager. Here's the system we use. You saw in some of the previous examples numbers between 0 and 7. This is the TAR confidence ranking system, and it is trying to use words to just give you a sense on how you can communicate as a judge how good the transcript is. So 0, 1, no or little correspondence. 2 is basically chance. Some correct elements, but not sufficient to suggest results beyond chance. You don't, you know, you get 1 or 2 things. You get black, you might get a partial shape or whatever, but you don't feel it's really enough that you made psychic contact. 3, you're saying, you know what, I'm on the margin. Yes, I made psychic contact. I have a mixture between correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the correct ones that I really feel I made contact with the feedback target. 4 goes up to good correspondence. Now you're feeling really comfortable with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. Still some incorrect information, but 4 is good. People often have problems in deciding between 3 and 4. Different judges doing the same, looking at the same transcript will differ by about 1. There'll be a range of multiple judges and they might have a difference of about 1 between them. What we've done is said 3.5 is wagerable. What that means is if you're willing to go off the boundary of 3 and you say it's 3.5, you'd be willing to wager a few bucks. Okay, so that's what 3.5 means. 4 is the good correspondence. 5 goes up a level. He brings in these new words, unambiguous, unique, matchable elements, but still some incorrect information. So this is clearly much stronger. And then 6 and 7 bring in what are called the analytical overlays. There were some examples there where it's now the intellect that's jumped in. It's taken red and round and said basketball, where, hell, it could be a tomato. There are a lot of things that are red and round. But the idea of a basketball came up from the intellect putting those things together, as opposed to it, and there's a different feeling, and it's one of the things you learn, as opposed to it coming up from the subconscious. But when you label as it AOL, and it's correct, then you might get up to a 6 or a 7, where basically you do the naming function and go from relatively little incorrect to essentially no incorrect. So a 7 is sort of spot on. We saw certainly a real 5.5, and those are tremendous. The 4s and 5s are really, really excellent. Yes, we love 6 and 7s, but we see lots of 4s and 5s. Okay, so having said that, I just quickly want to emphasize that when you're doing your judging, give yourself a little space. One of the things you're learning is how this communication channel works. The subconscious just uses, hey, it's coming from the very, 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 very small up through your nervous system into your conscious mind. So you got to give it a little room, as opposed to this skeptic who the viewer said a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange, but the skeptic says, oh, that's ridiculous, because that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine. So the point here, and it's a very important point, is be open for the analogies, something similar to what's actually in the picture. Now, we are now ready to get, let's see, I think I had it here. Yeah, okay, so remember, here's where we were in terms of getting the coordinate. So you've got your coordinate, you've got your transcript. The next thing you have to do is upload it to our server. The general manager gets to see it. It might be part of the decision he makes as a group manager. Plus, it's now available to you in the future. So we go out of our way to give you as much information as we can so you can learn. Not only the hit rate charts, but also you'll have access to your old transcripts online. Okay, so here what I'm doing is putting in just a dummy transcript so we can get through this stage. It requires you to put in a transcript. Okay, and so I am now going to hit submit, and we'll now be ready to start our judging. Okay, so here we go. Let me make that big. And on your transcripts, do what you saw as the examples there, at least here. You know, again, the viewer is in charge. The judge is in charge when he's doing the judging. But I do recommend going through each element, each precept, and marking it with either an A B, an A and a B, or nothing, if you really feel there's no connection with either one. And then when you're done with all that, you know, look for a story. And I will also now try to get the targ. I will get the targ up here. Okay. Let me move this over to here. And when you finish doing your judging, upload it as an attachment and email it to me. And then we'll talk about them. In the chat box, put the CR values. Wait, first let me get them over here. Most of you already know this, but there are still a few newbies around. No, that isn't the one. What is this one? Okay, I guess I will use this one. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Put in the confidence rankings, and I'll make a table of that. And at the end, as group manager, I'll make a judgment with your assistance. Okay, I got that. Okay, so let me go now. Okay, so yeah, while you guys are doing that, I'm starting to keep track of the okay. Point phone. And always do your judging totally independent. Ignore what anybody else does. It's all about personal ARV, personal remote view, personal feedback, personal judging. Okay. Okay, everyone, I see most of yours. If you haven't finished, that's fine. Take your time. This is a very significant, important part of the process. So I've got everybody up to there. Okay, let's now look and see who has sent me, and we'll move now to discussion about this, because the judging is where the personal decisions are made about your transcript, and then ultimately the group decisions. I firmly believe it's the personal decision that is more important, however. And often people ask me, should I go with the group or not? And I'm very clear that if you want to take that into account as I'm having trouble getting to my email. Oh, there it is. Into account in terms of how much you wager, how much energy you put into the result, fine, but don't disregard your own personal one. If your own personal one was strong, I really think it's important to honor that. So I actually recommend, if you have a strong session, and even if it's against the group, you might take some action based on that, because you're telling your subconscious that yes, you're on the path, and you're going to trust it. Okay, so the first one I have here, okay, so you didn't score it, Sandy, but you sent it in. Let's just make sure it's the right coordinate. Okay, so let's judge together, Sandy. In fact, that'll be a really good lesson as an example.
Okay, here, I'm sending the second one too. Just
What, the second page?
The 878179.
What one is that? No, we only want the one for the webinar. We only want one for the webinar. Oh, this was the 162 was the old one.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we don't want to do that now. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
I just sent one.
Yeah, no, we want to stick to 87. Oh, you got 878 though?
Yeah, I just sent it to your email address. Yeah.
Okay, good. We'll look at that'll come in then. Let me just do them in the order that they came in. So, do Ben. Okay, so here Ben came in over here. And let me lower that. Okay, there we are. So we've got Ben. Okay, and so you can see he's put his A and B's on there. He gave an A of 4 and man-made structure. Now, Ben, I look at this and I would say this is a man-made, well, unless structure to you doesn't include this, but
I wouldn't call that a structure.
okay, the word structure, okay, fair enough. And again, this is between you and your subconscious. So I'm just, and that's why independent judging, some people, don't like, because until their judge understands their use of these words. Land-water interface, neither, though there might be a lot of water in there. Structures close together, certainly. Angles, many, certainly. Outside, yes, very nice. Perspective, photo taken. Maybe you should be reading that. I can read your handwriting.
Yeah,
So
okay. Yeah, perspective. Well, okay, I got it. Structures close together on top of each other. Kept getting so many angles, outside, perspective, photo taken far away, not close up, meaning it wasn't a close up like photosite B. Slight feel of looking down. Lots of squares on top of each other and within each other. Colors, white, gray, tan, blue. Give myself credit for. Aesthetic impact. I kind of have like all these like a Greek village on the ocean with all these squares on top of each other, sort of thing. Hazy sky, I gave myself an A, or put
Yeah.
A. Very little foliage. Foliage to me means like trees and bushes and grass. I don't
Okay.
necessarily.
So you're on, and that's perfect. You need to be honest to your own understanding of what you got and what the words you put down meant to you. So that's perfect. Very nice.
Yeah. And then my drawing, I'm showing the squares on top of squares.
Yep. This looks really good. In fact, you know, I like to give feedback. Again, remember, differences of one, but if you had gone to a 4.5 on this, I would not have had any trouble.
Okay.
I mean, this looks really good. White.
And I knew there was no red.
Yeah. Well, right. And a B, zeros are also hard to get. I mean, you do have white here, and
True.
gray, and that's enough to give it a 1. I
Okay.
would say. You know, and it doesn't really all matter that much, but again, we're trying to communicate so a person, if all they looked at were these, would have the same sense that you do of it. And so you didn't get absolutely nothing. Okay, very good. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks.
Okay, let me go back. To here, and we'll do Ramel next. 4.5 for B. So already we're seeing how some people will always seem to go on opposite sides. So there's learning to be done whether you get a personal hit or miss. Okay, Ramel, you want to tell us about this? I can't read your handwriting.
The first thing that came into my mind was it was bounded with intricacies and delicate lines, moving into knowing that one's creation is worth 1,000 words. I thought that applies to an A as well in terms of the mystical characteristic of that site. There's this thing about repeating patterns, which is A and B as well. But on page 2, what draws me to concluding that it was for me like the B is that I drew a keyhole, and it's metallic. There are some metallic elements in here as well. As in page 2, which I say is I'll just read it. Smells acidic, chemical, strong scent, distinct odor associated with activity. Taste metallic, dull taste. Those are for B. The red as well, red, brown, is a B to me. Although brown is also an A. Black and white as B. Other B's as well are the when on page 2, that it looks like a cloudy thing, and I put white in there. There's this blooming portion of it too. To me, that characterizes more on the B, where when you look at it, it looks like a lotus flower in a way. And there's like this circular thing, intricate things again. I felt like this is, to me, it feels like handmade or made by, like, because it's metal. And there's like this ridges, the one you see below the keyhole that I drew on page 2. We're on page 2.
Well, I'm just trying to see. You gave it a 4.5.
Is that too high? I
feel like ask like I know.
Well, I feel like to me, it's like when I nail it, like I know it's like it's common to me. Like a lot of people, I presume that it would get an A, because it's so hard to just characterize to describe.
No, I'm not saying that you get an A. Here's my comment.
Specific thing, like like a little small metal. But when I touch on the keyhole and then looking at the key, and then there's the metallic component to it, and the acidity of it, and the craftsmanship also involved that I mentioned, it felt like it's like I have to go with.
Okay, I get what you did, why you did it, and yes, and I want to tell you why, because, you know, this will resonate with some people and it won't resonate with others. But in my opinion, there is a strength element to the match. And you seem, now this is just my impression listening to your words, so again, my impression, that you had to work kind of hard to get to the 4.5. I understood your logic, and this is an intellectual process, and yet wouldn't you like your communication channel to give you more direct stuff? You know, like a lot of circles would have been good if it was me.
That's the look at this page 2. There are circles in there within like big circles. Like it
Okay.
looks like cloudy, but I feel like that. And the ridges behind those are, when you look closely at right in the circles of those metal, there are ridges. They're like repeating ridges. That is
Here.
actually it's what makes a handicraft because it's like it's been
Right.
punched or something. Like the
Okay.
etchings, the small
Ramel,
etchings there.
all
Yeah.
I did was, and that's what I always do. You know, one thing I don't put myself out as is at the level of judging, knowing it all, at the level of any of this stuff, knowing it all. And
Yeah.
ultimately what matters is what the person takes in and puts together for themselves. So I get it. And again,
Yeah.
thank you.
Also the fact that I've done the first target when I was remote viewing with David, and I had a totally different experience. You know, it's like more mystical, more of that, and
Right.
here I didn't get any. So like,
Okay, that's fair. And you would have expected it if that's what you would see at feedback.
Yeah, I would expect to see like the
feedback time,
blocks and
right.
squares and all that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No.
And okay, I see Lila. Did you give me a second one? No, that was yours. So Lila is next. Let's look at Lila. Okay. Okay, very good, Lila. There you are. Beautiful. Let me get rid of this. Okay, do you have a mic?
I do, yes. Can you hear me?
We hear you very well, as a matter of fact. So why don't you explain what happened here? Good. I see your A's and B's.
So this was only my second attempt. I did do the first one last week, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to submit it.
Okay, good. Great progress.
So now I'm submitting, and basically I got a wide, vast field of flowers was what I was seeing. And so maybe it's a combination of the two, because photo A is wide and vast, and B is round, also like a flower. So not quite sure.
Yeah, okay, let's go over some of the words and see. This is all you, so the words wild, flower, field, this is what came in, or did you have any images which you didn't sketch?
No, I really did not have any images that I didn't sketch.
That's fine. Some people, I get lots of really good transcripts which are just words. I just wanted to know. Okay, tastes, yummy, cold. What is that, cooked food? Yeah, so that's like
Yes.
a B. Also yummy would be closer to a B. Then flower, I guess you could sort of connect with that. Smells. Natural, definitely A. Woody, soft. No, grassy is pretty good. You see, this is one of those cases where I would put like a bigger A, since there's literally grass there. And this gets to the point of the strength. Okay, bright.
I guess that could be B, bright. It's shiny copper.
Yeah, but also it's a bright day, so yeah, maybe both.
All right.
Right? Magenta. Well, isn't magenta? What color is magenta? It's more like a purplish, I guess. Yellow, blue sky. Well, now blue sky is clearly an A, right?
Okay, well, I thought it was cloudy.
Oh
So,
yeah. This I think would be a clear example of, you know, if your sub wanted to tell you something about it being outside
mm-hmm.
and, you know, clouds didn't come to mind, blue sky would work. This is one of those examples where you don't want to be too literal.
Okay.
So I think that one is clearly an A. You know, if there are other experienced people here that disagree, they can certainly say so. Okay, bright, yeah, we did both. Multicolored, sure. Again, you can put A, B here. You just chose to leave it out. Right, vast is an A, spacious is an A, outdoors is an A. Oh, those are good. Those are good. Quiet, they're both quiet, so I'd put an A or B there. Peaceful, A or B. Right. No dynamics, warm and sunny. Again, that also talks about outside, pleasure, peace, calm. Well, the chair looks like, if anything, more inside, maybe, though that looks like a block.
Well, I was drawing an outdoor cafe scene. That's a table with flowers.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
that's B because B is associated with food.
Right, and you've got a nice circle there.
Yeah.
Yep, I would give that with B. I agree. I agree.
Right.
Okay, so that's a tough one. I see what you did is you gave A a 2 and a B a 1, which I would say is a sign of you being a brand new newbie.
Yeah.
I would say definitely higher than that for both of them.
Oh.
I see a lot of really good stuff with A. I mean, look at, you got a lot of A's here.
Okay.
And the grass, I think, is really good. Outdoor, spacious, vast. So you gave it a 2 and a 1. And I don't know. I don't want to jump. Some of the others that have been around a while, John, Ramel, anybody else, what do you think this should be? She gave A a 2. First, let's just look at A. And I always look for, is there a story? Does it all
at least.
a what?
I would go with probably a 4.
You see, I'm not the only one, Lila. That was really a good session. Imagine it at feedback time. You'd be jumping up and down with grassy and natural and that kind of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. And that, okay,
Yeah,
we don't
4.
want to jump up and down now. We don't want this to be the attractor. But
Right.
nevertheless, you know, this is a class, and that's really good stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a 3.5 and a 4. Anybody else want to say what they think? Okay, now let's look at B. This certainly was right on. Well, not right on, but definitely goes with A.
What were the other B's that she has other than that figure? She said
Yeah.
flowers, is it? Flowers.
Let's see. Food.
Cold.
Here, cooked food.
Cold.
Right. Cooked food.
Food.
Cold,
Flowers.
maybe.
Oh, well, the cooked food, photo B is associated with cooked food.
Yeah, we're now looking at photo B and seeing how much higher we think it should be.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, you gave it a
So
1.
I would throw it back to you. It's not, if you feel like the photo site A, your ranking would be a 4. What would you rank the B in terms of your confidence? Yeah, I'm asking you.
Yeah.
In terms of confidence level on that. If your A is a 4, if you would rank your A as a 4, what would be a B for you?
Well, then I think B might be a 3 for me now that I look at it differently.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would not disagree
Mhm.
with that, because here you've got the food, here you've got a restaurant. I don't
Oh,
know,
the yummy.
did you do any other Bs? Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I would say
Three.
a
You
2.5 to a 3. But cooked food, again, is one of those you make kind of bigger. This is, clearly food related.
Marty?
Yeah,
I have heard food at first, and then later I went back and put cooked food.
interesting. Okay.
So, real quick on photo site A, I just wanted to point out, sometimes I go and look at different angles of the photo if I can identify what it is for sure. That's Stonehenge, So, since I do ERB, I get stuff that's not in the photo. And if you look where she drew the table and chairs, she's got a line of people, and that's exactly what is to the left of Stonehenge. There is a line.
Oh, sure. People are almost always looking at this, practically 24 hours a day. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, if you pull up
that
a
drawing,
photo of it, there's clearly a line to the left. You can see it if you have a different angle. You can pull up Google Images and check it out.
There's a line here. Interesting. And Lila, what did you see these as?
well, that was actually a hillside, a grassy hillside, and those are flowers,
Okay.
not people.
Okay.
In fact, there were no people and no buildings.
Right. But again, that emphasizes the grassy hillside. And, okay, you didn't know about the curve. And in fact, I would say as a judge, you wouldn't be able to take it into account. But if this were John's transcript, he would. So.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. You did very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Let's go on to the next one. I love beginners. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's look at Donna. Okay, and then I have to reduce this. Okay, very good, Donna. Ooh. You have a mic? Let me see.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. Talk to us. I think that works better because we also get things which didn't quite get down there. So you went with A, and why don't you tell us why?
Okay, so the first, the Gestalt to me was like something up against kind of a big background. I don't know. So that felt like A to me when I saw the picture.
Okay.
I also got the gray and the green. The temperature probably is of little consequence because who knows what it really was. Probably cooler than warm. But I was seeing half circles and dome kind of shapes sitting on top of those vertical lines, and also the pillars. I didn't quite know what they were. I kept getting like a fence, but that didn't feel right either. So that's why I put it over there. But the twisting and turning, all around that Stonehenge area, they say there's like paths that people walk, and they're kind of circular and turning. So I felt like that was much closer. And then for me, just if I imagine myself being there, it felt like a gathering place or a place where events were held, which they tell us that there was events held there. So I just felt like that was way more of an A than a B. Of course, I got the ripple texture, which seemed more like the strainer, I guess it is. So.
Right. Okay. More alike. There are probably some where you probably could have put an A and a B.
Okay.
You said it, and it just seemed pretty clear. When you said more alike, it means, yeah, there's some B in there.
Okay.
But I do I do see. Now you gave it a 5. Let's see if I would agree with the 5. The words for a 5, I actually have this printed out. Unambiguous, unique, matchable. What do you see here that's unambiguous? I see a lot of good A's. I do.
Probably mostly the event and a gathering place. That's definitely what that was.
Okay, very good. You see, and the fact
Marty.
that you could answer that so quickly supports it. You see what I'm saying? In other words, you have to have gotten something which felt strong enough. That's what I mean by the strength of this. Okay, yeah, very good. Thank you, Donna.
Marty,
You're welcome.
Not to be funny, the strainer is also a gathering place in a way, so that you know it's for. I'm just putting it out there.
Okay.
It is an event.
I wouldn't give it an event though.
You're hungry, it's an event.
And I think you meant.
It says here in your document, it says inside a gathering place. So it doesn't say event.
No,
Yeah,
there's an event right here. Here's event here.
Happening or an event.
Oh, happening. Okay. Well,
happening event. And oh yeah, inside a gathering place. Well, this certainly has the inside word. Anyway, I thank you for that. A gathering place for food.
All right. I'll settle on the court with you for 4.5 if you want.
No, I'm happy with the 5 too. As I say, we differ by 1. Let me just ask you this. When you said inside a gathering place, did you have any sense of people?
You know, I didn't. I didn't feel people, but I felt strongly that it was a place that something was held, like an event.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, good. Thank you. Let's see who's next.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's do Jerry. Okay, and Jerry, I didn't get your judging. Did you not know? Are you brand new, or did you put it on here and not give it?
It says where it says CR at the top.
Okay, you just didn't send it. That's okay. Let me just add you to the table here. And CRA of a 4 and a 2 for the B. Okay, great. Okay, let me reduce this. Okay, tell us what was going on in your head when you did this.
Okay, first of all, it's an absolutely gorgeous day and it's breezy and sunny and all my windows are open, and I knew I was fighting the image of the garden outside the window because every bug or bird that went by my cat was meowing at. So I kept having to pull myself back into the session because I was constantly distracted by this lunatic cat. So, so that's why in AOL I put bugs and flying around in a garden.
We live in a real world. Okay.
So, and every time I had to pull myself back, I just put pencil on paper and just didn't see anything, but just drew it. And I realize now that I actually draw a little ideogram for a person, even though I really don't see a person in A, but I understand there's some there. On the first ideogram, I'm showing like little peaks and valleys, and I'm seeing in the center of A little V shape. I think the one of the bug right there is, I think it's the bug outside the window. The next one down is like a V, and I'm seeing all kinds of triangular sharp angles in the A. Again, there's a little, next to it is a little loop with a person. I don't know why I drew it. And then again, I have this little mountainous looking thing, and that could have been A or B. Just little ripples. I put B, but it really probably should be A. The angle, there's lots of little rock angles on the top parts of the hinges. Same thing Now where I started getting the curves, I guess I related that to the spoon, although I really didn't connect with photo site B and a feeling level whatsoever, other than that little drawing thing that looks like a flowery tree or whatever, flowery circle.
This thing here, but
That's
this
really
has a
the
lot
only
of those, this,
Yeah.
someone else did something similar to that. How do you show a
Yeah.
lot of circles? I mean,
Well,
yeah.
that's, yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay, no, but that's definitely a B, that's all.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Under textures, it's bristly is the picture of B. Wooden I didn't see anywhere, so that's a miss. A is green, pink, and yellow I don't see anywhere in there. Those are misses. Blue for the sky on A. Smells, it was a fresh feeling, and I don't know, flowery, no, I think I was drawn back outside. But fresh, you know, it is kind of, England is fresh air a lot because it's always raining. So, okay, taste, it was earthy, like a earthy taste to it.
Right.
Temperature, it seems like it's kind of warm. And for sounds, I heard tinkling, but I don't know if that's it. You know, that's nothing. A humming, I just sort of thought of the humming of the energy that's supposedly around Stonehenge, that you feel an energetic feeling when you're there. Dimensions, breezy, I would say was A. Swaying and floating, I don't think go to either one. And then aesthetic impact is contentment, which I think that's what A feels to me. So I gave A a 4 and B a 2.
Okay, I kind of get that. Yeah.
And with my track record, it's probably B.
Well, don't turn that around. 5 seconds. That's the past. The future is different. I will say, and I didn't say it in the last one or one other I looked at, I do see a lot of partial circles. On the other hand, Stonehenge from the top is a circle, but that's as close as you can get to circular stuff. You know, even in here you have this, you know, you used this, what we call an ideogram. I also sometimes call it a pictogram, and that's how you used it here, which was fine, because I do think that they do have elements of both, and if you can get support for that with other things, you know, that's what turns it into the 3.5s, 4s, and 5s, is sort of a self-consistent story. So that's my only comment. I don't know. My 4 seems maybe a little high to me, but if you did 3.5, I don't know if I would quarrel with that at all. So that's fine. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Evelyn. Okay, Evelyn. Let's see what you gave this. Oh, I don't have you down either. Are you here, Evelyn, still?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. I just didn't get the CRs from you. So
2 and 4 is what I gave it.
Okay.
Down at the bottom there. And
I see it.
Counting again, there's probably a little more A's than I thought, but the more the circular feel is what I had through the whole thing. But I kind of got, you know, the very first thing, it morphed into a horse head for me. And you know what? That sent me down a rabbit hole, and I kept thinking rodeo terms, and so I wrote them all down on the right side. And then after you told us to quit was when I wrote all those aesthetic words. So so the drawings really are, you know, more than the words, are, I think, much more applicable. But the longing and the looking I gave to A, at the very top, and the smiling, I gave that to B just because it kind of seems like a happy thing's going on wherever you have that thing, if it's a decoration or if it's at something to eat with. And I didn't give to anything, and living, I didn't give to anything, and salty. Dusty, just, I don't know, because it's earthy, as copper is kind of earthy, so I gave that to B, but I guess Stonehenge could be dusty as well.
Well, it would be earthy, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that's debatable. This is earthy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
A is blue and B is red, so the dirt I gave to A. And warm, both of them are kind of warm. I think that copper is a warmish, looking photograph, so I gave them both warm. The rolling, it was like something, when I was looking at it, it was like something laying down and rolling, but it could be the stone or it could be the circular thing, so I gave that to both of them. The idea of rolling being that round copper.
Yeah.
And then the last thing was kind of this textured thing, and it was swirling down through a vortex. And I was trying to draw that. So that would be like going down through a strainer, I suppose.
Yeah.
And there was texture there, so the texture could be the copper or it could be the texture of the stones. So it would be A, but
this one, in my opinion, is a very strong B. Because as Ramel pointed out, this is a strainer, so stuff would go through it very much like you drew it here. Interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Marty, also, it could be an A as well because the energy vortex of that place is incredibly high. And I'm speaking in a metaphysical level.
Yeah, here you're saying, and this is some sort of energy coming from who knows where.
Yeah,
right.
people when people go there and like they have this life-altering experiences of energetic vortex. It's been known to be one of those energy vortex in the world.
Yep,
I also see.
I didn't write vortex down until I saw it but I didn't think of the word till I was just now saying it. But yeah, that makes sense.
Both ways, huh? Oh,
I also see maybe if you were looking maybe at an aerial view, concentric rings, which would be an argument for A.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Somewhat.
So this is making it much harder to judge. As a judge, which is the mode we're in now, once you get that stuff in your head, then you might change the 2 to a 3 or both of them to 3.5s, and that all happens during the judging session. It isn't like you go through it once and I notice you count your A and Bs. I don't really recommend that being the dominant. That's one of the factors. But when you're doing judging, you really need to bring it all together. And it's this bringing it all together. If it's not clear, the ultimate goal is to always have 5s, where it's so clear it doesn't matter. One side's a 5, the other side's a 1 or a 2. That would be the goal. And people are actually moving in that direction where, their communication channel understands that it would be best if it only gets the correct one and doesn't describe much about the other at all. It has access to both. Yeah?
Marty, our primary target is to describe the photo side of what we see.
What you see at feedback time.
At feedback.
What you experience at feedback time.
Yeah. And this has been brought up as well. Like when you look at target A, the Stonehenge, when you look at it, it's right now it's just horizontal lines of all these blocks.
Right.
And yet I know other people can actually suggest that when you look at on top of the Stonehenge, you can see a circular aspect of it. Like, how do you where do you put yourself when you're judging your session? Is it from what it's shown on the photo site, or what you know, what you search on the internet, unlike what it is?
That's a very good question, and let me give you what I believe is the correct answer to that. First of all, it's very individual. Notice we're in a group environment, and actually one of the problems with a group environment is you've got multiple people looking at this. But as an individual, if it never crossed your mind during the feedback session, okay, to look at it from the top, and let's say you didn't know that in fact it was circular, okay, if you didn't know that, that wouldn't have come into your feedback session, so it wouldn't have come in here. You see what I'm saying? And remember, this is personal. It's really one-on-one almost all the time. You know, we do group things like this from time to time, but most of the time your remote viewing session and your feedback session is a personal thing. And so what matters is how you would respond to this. During feedback sessions, many people do look at it from different angles. Usually there's enough information in it to make that doable. If you happen to know the site, then it becomes more natural to do that. And again, if you do that at feedback time, then you should expect to get that at remote viewing time.
For me, my opinion is this. I'd like to make it as simple for me. Like, this is my work now, because I know I can get off tangent right away, because I know Stonehenge would be like this and this and that. But just look at it as the photo site, which means what is shown on the page that I'm actually viewing, not what it's supposed to look like when you're not, you know, when you're like. So it's really not about Stonehenge. It's about the photo. Is that, what do you think of that? Because I really want to make it as distinct as possible. Yeah, because I really want to make it as distinct as possible to my unconscious. Like, all I want is the photo site, not what, you know. I don't want to say what's not to be looked at, but just the photo site of which I'm shown.
Ramel, that's perfect for you. Come on, you're very clear about what that means to you. That still permits you to pick up sounds that are there from this angle and all of that, and smells if there were any and all of that. But you don't want to wander far from that, and that's great for you. And other people may have a difference. Very personal. Okay? Okay.
Marty.
Yep.
Let me comment on that real quick. I'm going to disagree with both of you, actually.
As I say, it's very personal, but okay, go ahead.
So we have to keep in mind that orientation is always a problem. And so if we have a vertical view, if we can clearly identify what it is. Oh, look at there, right in that picture you just brought up. Anyways, if we have a vertical looking down view, we know it's a circle, and if that comes through in the data, whether that's the orientation of the photo or not, that's important data. I mean, because that is the reality of the data set that we're looking at, you know, just because we have a different orientation. I think we should always keep that in mind. And what Romel was saying about, I mean, it's a good idea for ARV, but do you want to just limit yourself to ARV? So if you say, I only want data that comes through in that certain orientation, nothing outside of it, and what that does is it's going to, you might be able to train yourself to comply with that, but it's going to limit your CRV ability. So
Why? Now wait, I want to
data is data.
Wait, I want to stop you there. when you do ARV, you can set your intention for an ARV-like intention, where, hell, if there's water half a mile away, I don't want to know about that for ARV, but for CRV, that might be useful information. And you
I agree with that.
You set your intention appropriately.
I agree with that, but you're also this whole process over the many years, where it's habit forming. We're creating a communication line, and if we set expectations, you would have to practice in both directions.
Correct.
And if we're only doing ARV and we're limiting our data set, then that could become a negative habit if you want to do anything but ARV. I'm just saying, you're setting a precedent, and you got to decide. You got to keep it balanced, in my opinion, if you want to just consider that.
I agree with that. In fact, I had a long conversation with Lori, the CRVer Lori, and that was just the conclusion we came to, is that you ought to have both of them going at the same time.
Yep, I totally agree. That's exactly the process that I try and do. Yep. On both sides of the practice.
There you go. Okay, let's look at Lynn's here. So let me see if I make it smaller, we can see the whole thing. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So the first colors that came in when I started were yellow, orange, and gold. Mm-hmm. So that would be indicative of B to me, except then when I was really pulling for colors, like are there any more colors, I got green and black, and then later on I got lemon yellow. So textures, smooth and fine, which I couldn't really associate with either, probably more B, right, if I had to pick one. Sounds were irrelevant. Smells, smoky, animal-like, were irrelevant. Temperature, possibly, I put cool, so possibly A. And then for the pictures, I had first came up like these floating squares, and so that's probably stretching it, but I put that with A. And then I had circles, like two circles, like eyeglasses or like bicycle wheels, and that was probably B. And then I got this picture of like 45s, like you used to have to put like a little plastic disc in the middle of like a 45 to play it on a certain record player. Okay. So I drew that. And so when I was judging, I immediately thought, oh, that's B, right? Because I've got a circle with patterns. And I thought, wait a minute, it's going back to why I questioned Sandy's thing for Stonehenge, because I thought if you're an aerial view, Stonehenge, and of course Stonehenge doesn't look like that today, it's not complete, but I thought it could be either one, so I put A and B.
Yeah.
So for aesthetic impact, I got outdoors, floating, delicate design. The most interesting thing was colors, bright and fluorescent, which really aren't either one. But I got I got repeatedness of the shapes and lines, so that would clearly be B. And then for my AOLs, the only thing that was significant I thought maybe or interesting was I got like a tower, like Big Ben in London, I put down, and so that would be somewhat stretching it for photosite A. And then I had like that black pole with red ribbon around it. This is really stretching it also, but it was like a Mayday pole or something. So I think that was like a pagan custom. But anyways, I didn't judge it for either photo site. But yeah, anyways.
It might be one of those, but the fact you got red with it is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what to tell you. It looks good. Smoky, the only thing that came to my mind was that I think this is a kitchen. Don't you think that's what this is?
I think that's maybe like a top of a salt shaker or a pepper shaker.
Yeah, we don't really even know what it is. I thought it was a colander too. And it doesn't really matter. You don't have to know what it is, except if you could infer it's a kitchen. But it may not be.
You made my point, Marty. It doesn't matter. It isn't.
No. It doesn't. You just describe what you can get there. You don't have to know. However, when you see something like Stonehenge, you do know what it is, that makes this credible, because at feedback time, she's going to know what it is, if that's the right picture. And then this, of course, would be a good rendering of the Stonehenge. And yet the circular and all that. In fact, and remote viewers do this all the time. They seem to be able to enlighten people who choose targets, because there's actually a lot in common with these two in terms of the circle. Let me take that one out. Okay, Lynn, thank you. I can't, quarrel with any of that. You got enough of A that even if you had gone to the 3.5, I wouldn't, I would not object.
Right.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah. And now we go back here, and then we have Jerry and Sandy. Okay.
Mine is a repeat. This is Jerry.
Oh, we did you already? Is there anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I just thought I didn't send, so I hit the send button twice.
Okay, good. Then let's do Sandy, and I want to turn this one around, and I have a way of doing that. I don't know if any of you know Snagit, but I really like it. It lets me do things like this, so I can copy this, and then I can rotate it. I just have to find an image and rotate. So I want to rotate right. Okay. So here you are. Let's make that one small. This one small. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so why don't you tell us about this, Sandy?
Well, I think that initially what was going on in my head was, well, let me start out by saying this. I'm not sure if in remote viewing, I mean, I know that Ramil made a great point about the photo, but I'm just wondering, it seems like there were several of us who got burning sort of fire-like stuff, and I'm just wondering if, okay, so the copper plate, did my mind go into the making of it? Because I don't know if it works like that, but so that was kind of, I had shiny for a texture metal, and then I had wood, and my colors were green, brown, and orange. Orange could have been the copper, the green and the brown would have been A. The smells I got were burning, and I made a note that maybe it was before it was finished, because I have like also taste of like sulfur. I don't know where meat came from. I think that's maybe a miss. The temperature was warm. That would go for A. I'm looking at this one as a miss. The quiet inside and crackling loud outside, but now I'm kind of wondering if the process of making that it had something to do with fire, because in where I have A, it's sort of under the tube. In the middle of those little, what could have been the Stonehenge, that I don't know if it was energy or fire, but I was thinking it was fire. So, yeah, I'm not sure. This one, I see I had put an arrow to bring it down. I think this part right here would be A2. It was grass. I think that this might have been a mountain, and I think that line under there, under that peak of the mountain, I don't know. But I don't know. And then in front of the man. See, to me, I was getting that there were more than one man. So I think this was just a miss, but I had an idea that there was a tunnel. I don't know if there's tunnels under a Stonehenge. I don't think that there are, but who knows?
Right. Okay, let me ask you a question. Your I don't knows are right on. Judging is one of the most difficult things that we need to do, and you should know that roughly 1/3 to, I would say, even 40% of the time, passes are an appropriate thing, to not have your highest score be over 3.5. So this is not atypical. This happens a fair amount of time, and there's still plenty to learn at the feedback session. I want to ask you a question that I think is relevant here. When you first saw this picture, did you think this was a kitchen?
No, I don't think I did. I tried to look at it, but I thought this was an art piece. It didn't look functional to me. I thought of it as an art piece.
Art piece, interesting.
Yeah, an art piece.
Interesting. So, okay. Yeah. The reason I say that is that would change the way I would look at this. If it were me and I had saw that at feedback time, especially, not so much judging time, but at feedback time, oh, that must be a kitchen, then some of these other things would go a little stronger to be. I'm just, again, sharing some of this is personal, the way I would do things, but you should know that there are several people here that are better at this than I am, so everything becomes personal. Really get that. That's what I'm probably one of the most important things I'm teaching you is you stay with this, you do your feedback, and you learn from your feedback in ways which are very personal.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I want to say as well is that green is not only for A, B also has a green. Look at, behind that grass. That is a green to me.
Well, again, it's personal. I don't think I give my credit, or maybe I'm more colorblind or something, but I do see how you might say that's a slightly light olive green or something. But okay, let me just make sure I didn't miss anybody.
Well, wait a minute. Can I ask a question?
Of course, anybody, always.
So, okay, so in this, is it possible that the fiery stuff had to do with the creation of the copper? Because I really had
said that before, and you want to know something? If that's the answer at feedback time,
right,
especially for you, since you originally viewed it as a work of art, I would say definitely. In other words, in terms of the story, and remember, one of the things you want to do is how consistent is everything? Is there a story here that is consistent with the picture? Story in quotes, where there are enough elements that match it that, yeah, I really got this at a level of a 3.5, 4, or 5. And I would say this is consistent because this is clearly something which was made, and I'm sure a fire was in the process of making it.
And it's handicraft, and that's how I view it as well.
Yeah.
It's like an art piece.
Yeah. It's just the way it's displayed is, okay. Anyway, again, it's personal. Being consistent with you, I can see where the fire, in fact, would fit with this being handicraft.
Okay, and I think I actually should have scored higher on an A, just because I was attempting to turn that circle. I had the arrow under it, but anyway, I'm pleased with it. Yeah. I'm okay.
I can change yours. In fact, let me show everybody here now where we are.
Yeah.
And I just changed your other one to a 3. I don't think you would change that to wagerable, though if you would, I'll change it to a 3.5. So here are the numbers to take a look and make sure yours are correct. And if you would like to change one, now would be a time to do it.
Let me look. I have a lot of A's and less B's. I think the shiny metal for B, the cement A, the colors green and brown A, the temperature looks warm A, the dimensions A was large, B was small. The aesthetics, I got high energy and movement, and I think that would be A, because I do believe the vortex is in.
No, I think your 3 and 3 is fine. Okay, now here's what I'm trying to do in terms of making a decision.
Okay.
First, I give more credit to those over a 3.5, but
Hi, Marty. It's Ben. I'd probably give myself a 5, 5.5. If I unpack my aesthetic impacts, it all leans towards A.
Okay.
And sometimes I swear I'm seeing both pictures, but my sub wants to just keep me on one. But when I put a not there thing, it's on purpose because it means the wrong one has that in it. And I had not there red.
Right. And do remember, we're in an environment where we spend more time with both pictures than you do on your own. And I look at that as, hey, this is good for you guys to really get that this is irrelevant to the remote viewing session. All that matters is the feedback session. So, okay, I made yours a 5.25. You said 5. So we upped it a little bit for the record. 3.5s, you know, I want to take note of them because sometimes there are a whole bunch of them on one side and then it has more meaning. So I'll put those just in gray. 3, 4. Okay, so from a visual point of view, I have 3 yellows and a 5.25 and a 4.25 over here and a 4 here. So these are good. You know, the one we just finished was so clear. I think it was like 5 and 1. This one is closer. Donna 5, Jerry 4, Ramel, and John.
Marty, this is Lynn.
Only a 3.5. Yep. Lynn.
If it helps any, I would bump up my ACE score to maybe 3.5 because I'm looking at my ideogram and I think it represents like land and maybe structure. But I'm not sure what an ideogram would look like for photosite B. Would that be a structure in photosite B?
Yeah, a structure and, you know, maybe vegetation, but blocky kind of pictogram. Well, now you appreciate the problems of group managers. You know, part of what's going on here in my mind, just so you know, is I know some of these viewers, some of them, 2 of them, well, let's just say I know them, and John is a very good viewer, Ramel is a very good viewer based on their history, and they're on opposite sides. So last time John said that happens a lot. We ought to think about that, John. But Ramel, I'm going to go on the other side this time because these really were judged, I think, reasonably accurately. So therefore, I need to go with the majority. Okay, so prediction is photosite A. So now we go back here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 2 would make the strongest case, but it's not quite that clear. Okay. So now, and again for the newbies, this would be the next step that you would do after you finished your judging. We have to come up with numbers. So first let's do this. If I'm going to do A, I'll ignore anything under 3.5. This looks like a pretty good 4.5. And then B, you know, if you would average these two, you would get a high score, but it's just not as strong. And I like the fact that the low scores here go with the high scores here. I think we said that should be a 1, but so I'm going to give this a 3.5. In other words, you know, together with these two, it looks like it's wagerable, but you know, not as high as the other one. So 5 transcripts with CR greater than 3.5 for photo site A, 2 transcripts for photo site B. I'm going to put more detail in, but it's good when you do this. You should put what went on in your mind, why you chose what you did, in as much detail as makes sense. Because when you come back, it'll be important to you. So I'm going to also say 3 transcripts with over with CR greater than equal for PSA, both PSB transcripts were greater equal 4. Okay, so you put something in the comment box, you put your CRs in there, and then notice up to this point, nobody except the computer knows which is yes and which is no. And so I click submit, and the computer will now tell us. Your prediction is no. Okay. There you go. So we now have, and notice on this page, it basically gives you the information we just put in, the 4.5, 3.5, the notes I put in. It now tells us that the prediction is a no, and it shows random, and it says a little bit about the nominal model, which you now know about the 3.5. And it repeats the event down here. And then we're done. So you've made the prediction. I am, while I am thinking about it, because often I don't do this and then it's harder to do later, I'm going to put this in the here in this worksheet, which I use that, but here it's the same worksheet, and so our prediction was no. So we're predicting that it will not close above 240. And there are ways of wagering on that. If you think about it, using options or puts, I suppose, at 240 or something like that, because presumably it's going to close below 240. Okay. that's it. Let me now just close. Are there any questions here? I just have a few more to wrap this up, and then we'll end this. So let me go this way. Doing this stuff in real time is an interesting process. Okay, so I want to close with this. What Scientific American, which is probably the best scientific magazine that tries to bridge the high-level scientific papers and the non-technical folk. You know, a lot of them might think it's a little too technical, but it works to make it non-technical on technical subjects. So I really have a lot of respect for this magazine. They refer to the unconscious mind. So so this is consciousness, what you only experience now. But what they talk about the unconscious mind is that we don't know too much about it. It continues to grow and change, even in later ages. More and more we're seeing papers on that. And what I want you to really get is that it's the stuff down here which comes somehow for even further down in this quantum foam and the non-physical world of ideas, beliefs, emotions, all start at a very, very deep level, go through your unconscious mind into your nervous system and come up into the conscious mind, which leads to your actions, your thoughts and feelings and all of that. So, I mean, this is the way life in the physical world seems to work. And the guy who wrote this says we actually have no idea how conscious experience arises from this blob of matter. But precognition, I think, really changes that. The reality of precognition shows, I believe, that you need to go to some non-physical aspect of reality to bring precognition into the picture. So that's really what I'm saying here. And maybe the quantum foam, and at a more kind of personal level and a real level, what precognition also shows is that you are entangling your feedback session, have I said that enough, with your remote viewing session. And notice at your feedback session you are definitely wiser because you know the truth compared to linear time. So it's a wiser, always keep this loving yourself, loving the process in mind. So it's a wiser, loving future you. And then I don't know, I suppose I'll come up with a final slide that's different than this, but I still really like this one because that's what I believe we get from working with this precognition. It really does make you healthier. It can make you wealthier in the broadest sense of the word. And I think we are getting wiser as we do it. So with that, please, questions, comments, talk to me. You all seem to have.
I would say don't forget to get your feedback in some way, even if you can't make the webinar feedback.
Oh, thank you. John had sent me something privately about, I forgot who it wasn't here, but it was the one person who got a miss, and he was saying, hey, maybe that's why, but she could do her feedback session anytime. However, it's very important that she in fact do that, or indeed that would explain the miss. Okay, other comments, questions? Okay, good. I think we are done. Yeah, thank you all for coming and joining me joining us with this. This is clearly a joint process, and hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. So,
Marty?
Yeah,
you know, I just started when that group was on, and so I didn't have the link to get to it, so I did it later. The one that you did the feedback on, but I did get it right.
Okay, that's beautiful.
I did get a hit on it, and that was like my first or second session ever.
Excellent. No, this is a natural talent, and often people are surprised because it's not in their current belief system. And as we keep doing more and more, as the belief system gets stronger about it, as you build up more confidence, you're going to get better and better. Okay, thank you all. Do keep precogging and stay in touch. Keep precogging.